Baseball season is here at last, and the excitement continues all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments. Why wait until the end of the season to claim victory when you can win huge cash every day? Hurry to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code AROUND to play for free. You could win part of the $300 million in prizes being awarded this season. Enter AROUND for free entry now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Bill Plaschke, how the heck are you? Tim Kalisha, Bomani Jones, Frank Isola.
Hey, who's that?
Oh, Cade and Glade and Ben Crop Tops coming out of and Bannon.
Looks good kill.
Oh,
I just said
wow,
look at that.
Oh, wow. What's up with that? He's going to win an award, an Emmy Award for special effects. I think we just
Around the Horn, presented by Guinness Blonde American Lager, part of Happy Hour. Here's Tony Reali.
Directed by Michael Mann. I am very happy to be here. Woo. I miss you guys more than Russell Westbrook misses playing without Kevin Durant.
Exactly. He doesn't miss it at all.
It's the first word.
We start with the San Francisco 86ers. Score, gone. Patrick Willis and Justin Smith both expected to retire. What is going on around here? And late last night, team released a statement. Colin Kaepernick is not going anywhere. The media reports suggesting otherwise are without merit and quite frankly ridiculous. Which makes you wonder, what are these media reports? Jason Braddock, KBME Radio in Houston. Niners have put Kaepernick on the block, and the Eagles and Bears inquired about a trade. Plaschke, in the immortal words of Mr. Belding, hey, what is going on here?
It's incredible. One moment, 3 straight NFC championship games. The next moment, it's a dumpster fire up there. Trent Baalke and Jed York, they better know what they're doing. They got a new stadium, and a lot of people's paid a lot of money to watch this team that suddenly isn't this team anymore. These guys were the heart and soul. Smith and Willis and Gore were the heart and soul of that locker room. They were the heart and soul of that team. They were Harbaugh guys, and this is why I'm thinking, okay, they're gone. Harbaugh's gone. I know the Kaepernick thing sounds crazy, but you know what? All this sounded crazy 6 months ago that this would happen.
So you
I don't
believe there's something to this Kaepernick?
I don't put anything past it. At this point, it's like they want to make it, remake the whole team.
Tim, address that first. Could the 49ers and should the 49ers be shopping Kaepernick?
I think if there's a market out there for him and they can get a nice something for him, yeah, they have to think about it. I don't know if they keep Blaine Gabbert around. I don't know what direction they go. At this point, it doesn't seem to matter. Plaschke's right. We see teams in the NFL that have a great year and then they fall off the map, and we don't really know how that came about. They were great for 3 straight years, 3 straight NFC championship trips, 1 Super Bowl. That defense was as rock solid as anything in the league. There's nothing special. There's no aspect of this team that you look at right now, passing game, running back game, anything on the defense, you say that's special.
So with these retirements, then you would entertain the thoughts of shopping Kaepernick. How about you, Bomani Jones?
Oh, no. If you look at some of the things that teams have had to do in the name of getting quarterbacks, somebody just signed Brian Hoyer, for example, who doesn't have a ceiling nearly as high as Colin Kaepernick. Quarterbacks are too rare in this league for them to think that they could get rid of the one that they have and get anything close to being better anytime soon. And look, they need to look good pretty quickly. They got a lot of people who I think need to save some face. After pushing Harbaugh out of there are a lot of people that need to look smart, and you're not going to look smart by getting Kaepernick out of there. I can't think of a team that has fallen this quickly with so many guys just being out of there. I don't think they were betting on Patrick Willis retiring. Justin Smith, you may have been able to see. They're not sure they're going to get a full season out of Alden Smith, given the way they restructured his contract to try to make sure that he winds up playing. I don't think anybody has any clue what's going on with this team right now, but just as quickly, they look like the worst team in the NFC.
Frank Isola.
Yeah, they're not right now. They're not even the most stable team in the Bay Area, football team, I should say. When you look at Kaepernick, he's 27 years old. He's 32, 15-1 as a starter, 4-2 in the playoffs. He's been to a Super Bowl. Where are those other quarterbacks? When you got a guy like that, you don't get rid of him. But this all starts with the head coach. You had a terrific head coach there that the front office couldn't get along with. Good luck replacing him, because in the NFL, when you have a terrific coach who sets the tone, 3 straight NFC championships, and let's face it, they were 1 play away from making it to back-to-back Super Bowls. That's where they blew it. Now it really looks like it started to come apart.
They were 1 play away from winning a Super Bowl a few years ago. Plaschke back in.
Right.
I'm just wondering if they don't think they can trade Kaepernick and package a bunch of things and try to get either the draft pick for Winston or Mariota. You've got to wonder about that. You got to wonder if teams wouldn't consider doing that.
Okay, what teams would consider? You heard the Bears, you heard the Eagles.
Well,
of course you heard the Eagles.
Well,
they're interested in everybody right now.
What if Tampa says we'd rather have this guy than Winston? I don't know. It's always possible.
I don't think they're going to say that, but the one thing you're ignoring when you talk about Kaepernick, 32, 15, and 1, how much of that was the defense? How much of that was Jim Harbaugh? All that stuff is gone now. Kaepernick hasn't shown any progress the last 2 years.
The moral of the story is every time we think an NFL team has this big old window, the window's probably more like a dark crack.
It's close. It's absolutely close, and that's why I do think a team like the Eagles would want Colin Kaepernick. You do not get rid of him. He's 27 years old, entering his prime.
Eagles won everybody. We'll get to them in a bit. We'll move on now to the Miami Dolphins, because they just gave Ndamukong Suh the GDP of Kiribati. $114 million, $60 guaranteed. I saw Dan Graziano on SportsCenter yesterday say, yeah, the Dolphins overpaid. That was their strategy. We all live in a galaxy with similar strategy. Frank, does it make sense for the Dolphins to spend that kind of money on Suh?
Well, apparently you're still on vacation, because I just got done saying it's a quarterback league. $60 million over the next 3 years for a guy that, he doesn't play a pressure position. He plays in the middle of the field. They've been an irrelevant franchise for so long. I get it. And they've missed out on big guys. They went after Peyton Manning. They've gone after Jeff Fisher as their head coach. They wanted to make a big splash. To me, this is too much money for a guy. You look at his Detroit teams, they never even won a playoff game. So, yes, he's a terrific player, but for me, it's way too much money for a guy that also can be a risk at times. You know that at some point he's going to get suspended. He's had over $400,000 in fine money over his career.
Bomani Jones?
Do it. Too much.
Well, the Dolphins just went from having a good front four to having a great front four. And the one thing you want to be able to do in the NFL is to get pressure with 4 guys. And if Suh's that guy that makes it possible, then you can see the argument for it. Yeah, they overpaid. I don't think there's any argument against that. But when you get a player that's one of the top 5 defensive players in the league, which Suh might be, then you can be willing to live with that. The results that you get can be good enough. The question that I have for the Dolphins is something that Steve White of SB Nation asked. How exactly are we going to measure success here? Are we going to measure it with sacks? Because that's not the best way to measure success from a defensive tackle. Are you going to measure it with team success? Are you going to measure it with defensive rankings? How are you going to determine whether or not you got your money's worth out of Suh? So no matter what happens, I think on the back end, we're always going to ask questions about the money that wound up being spent. It's just a matter of whether Miami's team results in the end are going to be enough that you don't care about that. And they might be able to have a good season with them, and they'll give you much better stopping the run.
Tim, your read on this?
The president of the Ryan Tannehill will have a better career than Russell Wilson fan club believes this is a necessary move for the Dolphins.
Still working
I think it's something that had to happen. The Dolphins were a pretty good team last year, an 8-8 team that scored more points than they gave up. They weren't good at all against the run. They weren't good at defensive tackle. They needed that. The Lions were the best team in the league against the run. The Dolphins are going to see a big push right away up the middle. Tom Brady all of a sudden has a problem when he plays the Dolphins. They already had good defensive ends. Yes, they overpaid, but you have to do that to get the best player.
So you think it addresses the need? Do you think this makes them a playoff team next year, Tim?
Yes, absolutely.
Lasky, how about you?
Has to be.
Frank, I don't understand. We all talk about defense in January, and suddenly you don't want to pay for it in the spring. This is absolutely a tremendous signing. They were 21st in the league in run defense. You stop the run, you win playoff games. This is a guy. I know some of the money said sacks. Wasn't sure about sacks. He still led all defensive tackles in sacks since 2010. He's taken more snaps than any defensive tackle.
So you believe they overpaid, but you believe they needed to overpay?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what he does? He makes everybody better around him. The Lions had the best rush defense in the league last year, all because it all starts with him.
To the question about they make the playoffs next year, you say what, Plashke?
Absolutely.
And how about you, Bomani Jones?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'll ride with that.
That doesn't sound like you've been too impressed. Okay, he's going to ride with it. How about you, Isola?
Detroit had a losing record with them. They're not going to make the playoffs next year. Not in the AFC.
Frank is riding down with it.
Plashke 11, Kalisha 9, Jones riding with 13, Isola 10. We've been we're taking a break. Buy or sell next. And coming up, Boeheim talking after not talking, but not talking about not talking. And the badge is rolling and rolling and rolling, but is it enough to avoid Kentucky and get a 1 seed? Stick around. Couldn't be.
Around the Horn is presented by the latest beer from Guinness. Guinness Blonde American Lager. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour. And in part by True Biotics, a daily probiotic from the nutrition experts at One A Day.
yourself.
When the Eagles dealt LaShawn McCoy, they had space like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Since then, Chip Kelly's busier than NDT at the club, where he likes to make a meteor shower. More for Gore, the max for Maxwell, Sanchez paid $2, Jeremy Maclin allowed to walk to Andy Reid in Kansas City, though. So, Plasky, buy or sell Chip Kelly and the Eagles today?
You know what? I'm still buying him. We have to give this guy a chance. Look at Gore. Gore averaged 5 yards per carry out of the shotgun last year. That's what the Eagles do. They run that. Gore's got at least one more year left in him. Maxwell led the Seahawks in pass breakups last year. I think we have to give him time, like we gave Pete Carroll time in Seattle, to kind of fashion this the way he wants to do it.
You endorse the football move here. How about you, Timmy?
Chip Kelly hit this league like a supernova. Now he looks like he's driving it through a black hole. None of these moves really make a particular amount of sense. Frank Gore is a fine player. He's also 5 years older than the guy they got rid of, LaShawn McCoy, who they thought was on the downside. Explain that move. That makes
Bomani Jones?
I did.
Well, I've got to sell this, and one thing we keep saying about the Eagles and what Kelly did was he cleared up cap space. So what's the point of clearing up the cap space if you're not going to use it to keep Jeremy Maclin, for example? Chip seems to believe it doesn't matter how talented your guys are on offense outside of quarterback, and that sounds like hubris.
Also sounds like college. Wouldn't you say that? You're going to make the scheme work, Frank? Do you think that's what
sounds like the Seahawks?
It's amazing. You know, he's innovative. He's young. I can kind of relate to this, and you guys are always resistant to it. I think he has a plan in place, and he clearly wants to get a quarterback in there, whether it's Kaepernick, whether it's Marcus Mariota. I think he has a plan. And Gore, and Bill mentioned it, you know, the last 4 games of the season, he was averaging over 5 yards a carry. He gets better as the year goes on. And remember, he's in the NFC.
So you think in this case,
cold weather
he can go scheme over, I don't want to say he's not playing for talent here, because Frank Gore is a very talented running back, if not old. Do you think he's playing for scheme here, and that could work in the NFL?
Absolutely, and I think people don't like, you know, the no huddle playing quick. I think that's the way of the future in the NFL. I think he's ahead of the game.
Most innovative, youngest mind on the panel today. Buy or sell too, Jim Boeheim. He says he's not going anywhere. He said this at dinner last night for the Hardwood Club. Said it after not talking Saturday following the season-ending suspension-starting loss. He was killed for that no-show. Syracuse.com reported that he was told by the administration not to talk Saturday. Kalishaw, what are you buying and what are you selling from Boeheim?
I'm buying that he is going to stick around. He is going to win or try to win with the recruiting class he's got coming next year and thumb his nose at everyone. I also buy that I'm selling the idea that we know exactly what Syracuse did. These violations seem minor in compared to the things we used to consider violent.
And the decision by Boeheim not to talk after Saturday's game, Tim?
It's weak, but that's something he's done before.
Bomani Jones?
Well, I'm buying that he's going to stay at least for this year where he's got all these great recruits coming. When it starts getting difficult, those scholarship restrictions, I bet he's going to start feeling old as hell, and he's probably going to wind up retiring somewhere in the course of it. The thing that I'm selling is the idea that the administration told Jim Boeheim not to talk. When's the last time anybody in Syracuse told Jim Boeheim anything that he was obligated to listen to?
And Frank, your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's why I think he was probably listening to an attorney, and he did say, you know, I'm going to battle. So where was the defiant Jim Boeheim on Saturday after that game? So he probably is all lawyered up at this point. But you talk about these violations. You read what happened with Fab Mello trying to keep him eligible. You know, this academic stuff, that falls on Jim Boeheim, and that's where I have a big issue with. The booster, some knucklehead handing out money to kids and stuff like that, how are you supposed to police that? But the academic stuff, that should fall on Jim Boeheim.
I'm just selling all this. He's maybe the greatest basketball coach in Syracuse history, but he's now the curator of the biggest embarrassment in Syracuse athletic history. How does he still keep his job? I can't believe there's somebody in the administration that won't call him aside and say, listen, why don't you retire this summer, go gently into that good night because this is not working here. And it is. He's an embarrassment now.
Buy or sell 3. Wisconsin over Ohio State yesterday. Enough to make a Buckeye symbolist crash. Badgers right on the line between a 1 seed and a 2. People of your ilk who make these mocks brackets have them as the 2 in Kentucky's man region. Bomani, has Wisconsin earned the 1 seed? And do they need that 1 seed to avoid Kentucky?
Well, I think if they win the Big Ten, they could get that 1 seed, depending on what happens in conference tournaments otherwise. They've got to win over Oklahoma early in the year, but outside of that, their wins are not necessarily great. But I do think that they do not want to have to play Kentucky on that second game in 3 days. If it comes down to that with that short bench that they have and the fact they're playing under 60 possessions a game, I don't know if going to a switch to play against a Kentucky team is what they want.
Thank you.
and people in the Kentucky program are convinced that they're going to end up playing Wisconsin at some point in this tournament. You know, if Wisconsin was named Indiana or Michigan State from the Big Ten, plus you have the probable player of the year in Frank Kaminsky, I think they would be a #1 seed. To me, they absolutely deserve it. It's a Big Ten.
Lasky.
I don't think they play. It's a Big Ten school. The Big Ten's really down this year, Frank. I don't think they've done anything to deserve the 1 seed. Yeah, they beat Oklahoma Bomani, but as you know, they lost to Duke, and that's the only big game, really, the only truly elite program they played outside the conference. And then they struggled. You know, they lost to Maryland in the conference. I don't think they're going to.
They didn't struggle in the conference. They were 16-2 in the conference. They lost one game to Maryland, one to Rutgers. Kalish, how about you?
I think they're a 1 seed. I think if they play Villanova on a neutral court today, I have a hard time thinking Villanova is favored. Even if that's wrong, they're not the lowest of the #2 seeds. They shouldn't find themselves playing Kentucky.
Yeah, that's what I thought about that too, right? If they're in the line between 1 and 2, that's the 4, that's the 5, you know, number
they're not
team in the country. How do you get Kentucky? Nobody wants to play Kentucky, but he did see Wisconsin come very close to beating Kentucky last year, though. Plaschke, 18 points. He didn't really make it through the conference here.
Kalishaw drafted off me to spin right past me at the end there. I don't understand how that happened.
All right, Timmy, Bo, Frank, we're not doing anything. Lightning round next. Coming up, you guys are going to have to tell your abs from your elbows, and I don't think you can do that. Ford!
Welcome back to Around the Horn, presented by Guinness Blonde American Lager, part of Happy Hour.
Jones, 24. Isola, 22. Kalishaw, 19. It's a run. Yu Darvish and Cliff Lee. 4 arms, 2 working elbows. Tommy John's possible for both. Whose elbow issue is bigger, Kalishaw?
Well, the Phillies were a last-place team, so let's eliminate them. The Rangers, they're
We're
not
a last-place team. Where you going?
Yu Darvish. They weren't going to be one with Yu Darvish, but unless Fielder and Shin-Soo Choo are battling for comeback player of the year, they're a last-place team.
Right. I mean, at this point, is it tank time for the Rangers? Do we even do that in baseball?
We don't do that in baseball. There's the tanking. For the first pick, that's not going to happen.
Both honey, how about you?
Well, the other part, too, is that Darvish still has a bit of a future, so how he comes back off of this injury is a bit more of a concern than Cliff Lee, where Cliff Lee is about the age of a dude typically named Cliff Lee. Very uncle-like, if you will, you know? So with Darvish, let's see what happens after this. Cliff Lee is kind of a thanks for the memories almost.
Isola.
Yeah, and Cliff Lee even addressed that this could be it for him. And for Yu Darvish, the one good thing is these rotator cuff injuries. Maybe this would be good for Kobe Bryant. You know, you don't seem to come back for baseball. But the elbow injury, Tommy John, you can come back for. They need Yu Darvish. Their starting pitchers last year, 5.2 innings in all their starts. They need him or else they're going nowhere.
Lightning 2, the NCAA banning crop tops, as modeled here by Ezekiel Elliott, and seen in every highlight of Earl Campbell. And every scene in the program, and every scene Scott Conson in Varsity Blues where he's wearing a shirt. Does this seem like something that needed to be addressed, Bomani Jones?
I mean, it wasn't something that needed to be addressed, but it's what the NCAA does. Like, oh my goodness, is that some measure of personal expression out there? God forbid you do something you individually want to do. Now, that being said, all that uniformity in the look is something that's helped the NFL make a lot of money. I understand why they did it, even if it wasn't necessary.
You know, Bomani, you look good, but let me give you a little fashion tip. That is very 70s and 80s, that look. It's not a good look, and there is something to be said for, you know, wearing the uniform the proper way. The cutoff shirt, I don't like it.
Okay, but I mean, there's no advantage on the field to wearing a crop top, is there, Kalishaw?
There's no advantage, no disadvantage, and there was no problem with it. The problem in college football is Oregon and Baylor and the 50 other schools that change their colors and their uniforms and their helmets on a weekly basis. That's the uniformity the NCAA needs to do something about.
So you want more uniformity in your uniform?
You know who's playing.
Less uniforms.
Maybe you should wear the same blazer and shirt combo every day. Maybe that one with the Kalishaw family crest on the side I like so much.
Yeah. Still say if I played Frank on a neutral court right now, I'd be favored.
Wow.
Bomani, maybe not so much, but Frank, I'd be.
All right, Jones and Isola. Showdown next. Straight ahead. Steph does this, which makes Steve Kerr do this. And Dante Jones does this, which makes Draymond Green do this.
Around the Horn is presented by the latest beer from Guinness, Guinness Blonde American Lager. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Bomani Jones, Frank Isola, 2 quick ones, 30 seconds of FaceTime to the winner. Good luck to people. Showdown 1. The adventures of Rory's 3-iron. Not operating as requested. Chucked into the water, fetched by a scuba diver, and into the hands of Donald Trump, who somehow managed to have a few cameras around when he returned it to Rory McIlroy. Trump said he wants the club back so he can mount it. Bomani, your favorite part of the adventure?
Well, my favorite part of this at first was the idea of Rory McIlroy losing his mind and throwing that club. But Donald Trump came for a photo op to give the man the club, only to say, "Nah, I'm going to want that back so I can put it on my wall." Why'd you give it to me in the first place then? Go iron your slacks. They wrinkle.
It's a real touching story anytime a millionaire golfer throws a temper tantrum and a billionaire, returns the golf club. But how about the scuba diver? There were alligators in that water. That poor guy risked his life for a golf club.
As far as Trump's wrinkles, those were the greatest wrinkles in the world, by the way. I'm surprised he didn't ask Rory for his birth certificate. Point for each, we'll move on. Steph Curry, 1-on-4, euthanizing the Clippers. Steve Kerr, after this, was like, hey, what do you want from me? Or Draymond Green excavating and extracting the soul of Dante Jones after the bump with that stare. Frank, what was more savage?
I'll tell you what, Steph Curry's move was pure genius. In a related story, Alexei Shved actually made a layup in the pregame warm-up, so that's a nice story. But it has to be Draymond Green with the stare down. When you think about how much these two teams don't like each other, there's nothing wrong with not liking your opponent.
Yeah, look, I totally understand what you're saying. Draymond Green with the great post-game interview also. But Steph Curry was out there looking like the 08 NCAA tournament, except not against college players, against professionals. Right. That's how good he's gotten, where he's harkening back to that.
Bo, though, you talked about Green after the game. That's when, to the camera, he said, what am I going to do? Go after him? I play. He doesn't. I mean, that's as good as the stare right there. Points and game then, Frank Isola.
Wow. Welcome back, Tony. We actually do have basketball in New York. Manhattan plays Iona tonight. The winner goes to the NCAA tournament. On Friday, Yale had a chance against Dartmouth. They were up. They gave up a layup in the final seconds. They lose the game. Now they have to play Harvard in a playoff game, or the battle that I like to call the battle between my two safety schools when I was a high school senior. But Yale, it's hard to root for either one of these teams, but I can't believe I'm saying it. Go Yale. First time since '62 if they get in.
All right, that's good, folks. Thanks for coming around. On a 23.5-hour break.
What happened to Pablo? Is anybody seen Pablo lately?
Baseball season is here at last, and the excitement continues all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments. Why wait until the end of the season to claim victory when you can win huge cash every day? Hurry to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code AROUND to play for free. You could win part of the $300 million in prizes being awarded this season. Enter AROUND for free entry now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
Right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.